guys?
We are live.
Live Senate Appropriations Committee, Cinco de Mayo, at least Cinco de Mayo. And we are talking about T-bill 944. We have Ledge Council to talk to us about the, you don't have to go through the whole thing, the fiscal impacts. And then we have an amendment. Or you could have JFO staff do fiscal note, and then we do the amendment. I don't know if you have a preference to how you want to.
It makes more sense to have Logan do the fiscal impacts. Otherwise, we'll just repeat the same things.
Okay.
And he'll do it better than I will. So.
Okay, well, why don't we just have Logan do the fiscal note, and then you can do the amendment. That's not how the users will feel. I want Logan to come all the way here and not have to do anything. The record, Logan Blueberry, you joined the fiscal office. There is a fiscal note, it should be on your committee page. As passed, or as recommended by finance. Just joining, I'll put it up on the screen for you all. What is the T-bill appropriations overview? Oh, that's like
That's the budget on the page. We can look at that too. That you all have already sort of agreed to in the budget.
Yeah.
So if you want to see that, that's the actual sort of the numbers and the actual appropriations that are being made. The fiscal net just sort of says everything that isn't a change to the appropriations.
Does this have fun? But yeah, that's maybe.
Do you want to walk that one first, or do you want to go to
No, I mean. Our other. What is it? Well, okay, I want to ask you.
We can go through that one in a
We'll go
second.
through the fiscal now.
Perfect. So as mentioned, there are a couple of amendments, which Dan, you go through the specifics. I'll just highlight them here because this is representative of how it came out of finance. So some of the sections in here that I'll just touch on briefly, you all will sort of amend out to bring everything in alignment with the other bills that you passed out already, the budget and 933, the miscellaneous tax bill. So share this.
We actually created a special. I think JFO let us create more special. It is.
Perfect. So here's the fiscal note for this. I'll walk through the sections that relate to this committee and appropriations. Then I'll highlight. So sections 6, 7, 8, and 9 all relate to sort of changes happening with the pilot fund and then an appropriation from the pilot fund to AOT for Town Highway 8. These are all you'll see in an amendment coming up. These were all put into the budget. You all vote up the budget, so they need to be removed essentially from the T-bill. So in the amendment that you'll see in a moment, you'll see it'll essentially take out these sections from here because they're providing in the big bill, and so we don't need them in both places. But coming out of finance, as this represents, they were still sort of in the bill. That's why they're on here. 10 is also another section that you will amend out. This was a transfer of $10.4 million from general fund to the T fund. This no longer needs to occur due to the decisions you all made in 933. The T fund will be getting more PNU, about 9.9 million. So we don't need to make this transfer for the 10.4. So this would be another one of the sections that will be amended out if you all.
In the 10.4 is the 10 plus the 4 for non.
Yeah, so the
non-emergency.
Yeah, exactly. So the 10 was the money that was going all the way back to the governor's recommend, we were gonna get 10 million additional, that sort of changed out, so 10 was to cover that, and then there's 400,000. We'll see in a second to go to non-emergency medical transit, volunteer support stuff, that will be this last amendment section that you'll amend, is also in the budget for 300,000 instead of 400,000.
You got to choose sequence.
13 and 14 is essentially authorizing the issuance of transportation infrastructure bonds to be used in 2028 or through 2032. This also says, section 13 says that they're essentially going to start looking at bonds, but that any amount would need to be approved by the General Assembly. And then 14 is stating that AFT should prepare and submit 2 programs next year, one that uses bonding and one that doesn't use bonding. So whoever's here next year will be able to see those and sort of make the decision of whether bonding is the right choice for the state or not. 16 and 18. I won't go through the specifics of all of this. This is the mileage-based user fee. There's a lot of discussion about this next door. This is essentially a mileage-based user fee, a set fee charged to battery electrical vehicles based on the miles they driven, 1.4 cents. There's a number of paragraphs here, unless you want to get into the nitty-gritty of this fee. I'll first skip over it for now.
And this is
As it came out of my accounts.
What did they do differently from what was in education?
So if Damien can maybe help me out on the specifics if I forget anything. They removed.
good, sure. He's eating my.
I think so. They basically took out everything, electric vehicles.
So only electric vehicles with paying miles, seeing all the other vehicles.
Can we put it back?
T-bill, we had it for where there were. Every couple of years, more vehicles.
Yeah, and there are discussions happening in the North later this happening about maybe adding back in hydrants.
It would be a floor, but we're not gonna do that. Yet. Oh.
Yes.
Efficiency, just hybrids. Just well, yeah, with
It would be hybrid.
for now.
Yep.
Yeah.
As we passed out of transportation.
We had all, we did all vehicles by 2031.
Okay.
By 31, all vehicles would be paying emissions.
The view in transportation is we want to get to a place where we treat everyone the same, regardless of vehicle type, regardless of anything that we, and the only thing that we all do is travel miles. So it would all be based on level playing field for all. That wasn't what kindly.
There is a fee is a flat fee, so even though they're like a cap, so even though there is a fee paid by electric vehicles, we can't, won't go over that, no. So if you're, and it can get reduced if you go under. So if you're a low mileage driver, you would
That's
pay
less.
less. It gets chewed up once you get to your odometer.
I recognize we're probably not gonna be messing with that in here. Okay.
But no, but we're happy to talk about.
I mean, I like, for the record, I prefer the transportation construct, but. Well. That's a conversation for another time.
And is this fiscal?
Building unions.
That, I think, yeah.
Trying to understand my finance didn't want to raise more money for transportation.
This actually, this is not designed to raise more money. What it's designed to do is arrest the decline in fuel taxes. So per vehicle, you would not have and if you look at the charts on inflation adjusted, the fuel taxes are dropping So with
If we do make a switch to electric vehicles, then it would bring in more, but
But it would, I mean, it would just equilibrate.
no. And what you would do is you would get credit for the gas tax that you paid. And based and the design for to let out. The average vehicle, we have to get somewhere around $154 to be the average. Or $14 for every $1,000. And we're trying to even that out between all of the uses,
Everybody that uses the roads.
every choose.
okay, so. You have the revenue estimates on here.
I do. You want to do this?
Because it's 27, it's. EVs and it's just what changes in 28, 29.
So in 27, 28, there's that transition period where vehicles will be paying the flat fee, the sort of. We did it $89.
Yeah, current infrastructure. fee,
During the transition section. So they'll pay a one-time road usage charge, is what we're calling it here, $89 for the 1 year. So that'll happen in the first 2 years, while people are getting that initial mileage reporting period. And so then once a vehicle has reached its first conclusion of its first mileage reporting period, then it can be assessed an MBUT based on its actual mileage driven. So that's sort of where you see the change. And so in FY 29 really is the first full fiscal year where we expect most vehicles, or all vehicles really, to have completed their first miles reporting period, can be assessed and then based on their actual miles driven. As I think was mentioned, the average is about 11,000 miles per year. That'd be about $154. That's sort of where the numbers come from. More questions on it, but on my notes, section 17, this is sort of related to the MBUT. This is the existing EV infrastructure fee. So this is on the plug-in hybrids currently pay the annual or biennial EV infrastructure fee of $44.50 for the annual or $89.50. Section 17. Well, in current statute, the money generated from this goes to AOT, but then they send it along to ACCD for EV charging infrastructure. That was the construct when this fee was originally put in place. Section 17 would essentially say that this no longer has to go to that EV charging program ACCD, and instead just goes into the transportation fund and it'd be appropriated next year as same as any other.
So starting on July 1st.
Yeah, starting in fiscal year 28, I believe. The money for is already going in 27. So
27 is going to ACCD or 27 is going to.
So there's already $1 million of TFUN going to ACCD in fiscal year 27. So this would really take effect next fiscal year.
Yeah.
So does that, there's no other revenue source dedicated to increasing charging infrastructure?
Not
From state.
out of the TFUN that we.
Right, so because that had been a dedicated use of this,
Right.
or I know it's temporary.
And so it'll be 1 more year and it's the full 1 million, which sometimes.
Yeah.
He was sometimes we're bringing in less than that, than $1 million.
Sorry, say what?
But the fees bringing in less than $1 million, or was it 1 point?
I'd have to go back and look at what it brought in. I don't remember off the top of my head. I also note to that. So there's BEVs pay $89 per year, and then plug-in hybrids pay $44.50. Under current law, once an MBUT goes into place for BEVs, that portion of the fee is repealed automatically. So that also occurs in here, assuming the MBUT gets adopted. It's just saying then the 44.50 that's charged for the plugins no longer is just being sent to ACCD. It will go into just the fee fund in general, and then based on your all priorities and appropriated as sort of see from there.
So just so you know, the AMT does this effectively for fast track.
Oh.
They're still working.
Okay.
How many more stuff?
Well,
Oh,
I'm looking at that.
There's Ken in the next round.
okay. Then
We're
we're,
9 in development.
so it'll be a good, pretty decent increase.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, moving on, section 33 and 34, this shows the Transportation Alternatives Grant Program. 33 increases the maximum amount of money that can be awarded through this program to 300,000 to 600,000. It would also sort of remove this limitation that was there that 50% of grants would be awarded to environmental mitigation projects. And instead it added language that they don't have to use 50% for any specific project, but that should get preference weighting to salt and sand shed and biochem pedestrian projects. And then in 34, related to the same program, it's saying that in fiscal year 27, grants up to $1.2 million could be awarded, and then it would revert back to the 600,000 future years. And this is essentially just to get this money out the door faster. It sounded like they didn't have enough projects to get the money out. So this would allow them to sort of get some projects going.
It's all teeth.
Shred. And federal, effectively. Okay, 36, this is, a one-time appropriation to Drive Electric Vermont. So this would be $242,000 from the T Fund to AOT to continue its partnership with Drive Electric Vermont. To be used for activities to support increased ownership and use of electric vehicles. This is an existing partnership, and so just continuing that. And then section 39, as mentioned earlier, the one sections that will be amended out. This is your one-time appropriation for demand response medical transits, given the public agencies to support recruitment and retention. The T-bill had 400,000 of transportation fund. You all put in the budget $300,000 of general fund. So section 39 can sort of be removed from the T-bill.
Yeah, just for clarifications from my sake, on the section 34, or 727, 1.2 million may be used. And that goes on to say in future years. What does that mean exactly? Does that mean fiscal year 28 or future years means? What does that?
Yeah, so in fiscal year 28 and beyond, it would go back to the 600,000, which is being increased in section 33.
So no, very specific.
Yeah. So it's just saying essentially for 1 year, they can grant out to $1.2 million. Beyond that, it goes to 600,000. That is the last section on the fiscal notes.
Okay, any questions on fiscal impact? Transportation down. So
Just to recap, all the money here was in the budget.
I'll say the only one that was not appropriated in the budget is section 36, which is being appropriated in the T-bill, is the T-fund. It came over that with the House and it didn't end up in the budget in the Senate. If you all agree with this appropriation, it shouldn't be an issue to have it be appropriated into the T-bill. Or you could do it in the conference committee if that's also something you want to do, but it wasn't in the.
this is just part of the transportation fund. So
It is, yeah.
they're going to scroll back just to around section 33.
31. What is the second?
Or not 31. But the bill, it's just, I was looking, maybe it's 17.
The infrastructure fee?
Okay, so this has nothing to do with appropriations or anything, but it's listed in our sheet, talking sheets here in section 18. Good time to clear it up while I think about it, but then.
All right. So it is lists on the sheet I'm working on. I guess I don't know if it's the same one that you're working on. Section 17, it says amends 23 DSA, 661 pleasure cars. So that is the EV infrastructure.
Setting it up
fee.
for that.
Yeah, section 18 is the managed user fee, but that's the transition. So there are two separate sections. Section 17 is essentially what's being amending that portion of the EV infrastructure fee to essentially say no longer have to go to ECD. Again, I think we're working off the same sheet, but
Yeah, I think a little more information provided on that sheet. So I have, but that's good.
Okay. Second, vote.
do you want to go through the other document? We don't. I put that up there for your reference.
Yeah.
But if you
Real
have
quickly,
questions,
I had a question here.
I can throw it up real quick.
Maybe tell us what this. That it highlights the zone, those two center.
Yeah. Yeah, so the two changes that were made in the Senate version and in the budget this year are occurring in section 4 and 5 of the T bill. I've reflected them on here because they changed essentially the numbers that are being appropriated dollars. It's a change in the program development B903. So what's occurring here is that within state highway bridges, we're increasing the amount of funding being used in that program, the amount of transportation infrastructure bond funds that are being used there by $1.75 million. And in turn, reducing the amount of T fund that is being used by the same amount, 1.75, essentially freeing up the T fund, which then you'll see above within the paving, is being increased by $1.7 million. It's going to district-wide leveling. And then the 50,000 that is sort of missing from there is being used in the one-time appropriation for Drive Electric Vermont. In the House was 192, Senate Transportation increased it to 142. So that's sort of the money shift that is happening. 242, sorry.
Yeah.
Right, there's a way to move money around to increase net neutral way to get more paving left.
So the House had taken money out and put it into town highway or
Yeah. The tip fund, yes.
And to an ongoing expense. The tip bond fund, when it was created and said you have to use it on projects that have a life of more than 20 or 30 years. And it has to be a long-term project. They notwithstood the language, put it into an ongoing expense. We took it out, we put it into bridges, which are long-term expenses. If we're going to seriously talk about going out the bond market and asking about what it would look like the bond next year, it doesn't look good to the bond houses where you do to in the very year before you do it, go out and notwithstand the language and the rules that you set out, and then walk out to the bond house and say, trust us.
Okay, I don't have any questions on this.
And I made it safe, but one of the things that we did with the money is we put it into it, you can call it level and seal, it's the PIN code that they put out on highways. The governor's, because we're doing so little paving in this budget. In that we're afraid that we're gonna need to do more of that PIN code. The governor's budget had about 20 miles worth of road. This ups it to 25 or 6, in there, about 8 million. I would say in the paving, what you're going to hear when we get to the floor is we have 320 odd miles of interstate. This paves 92 miles of that. In state highways, we have 2,700 miles. This is 56 miles of paving. So we're on a track to pave our state highway system once every 50 years. That's why any extra money we had should go into the patching stuff. We're in not a good place.
I forgot that the BGS gets AOT money to run that. To do all that, all the maintenance.
That's what, sorry.
All maintenance and
I
operating.
don't know what they use it for. I do know it's an annual appropriation that they get every year. I'm not entirely sure what, I think it's make the maintenance of the building, but you can check with BGS or maybe AOC.
And I see your wince when you talk about the theme that's going away, and clearly not a choice that we would like to make, but it was statutorily in place before any of this. But I would say we haven't got any place in this budget to find that.
Understood.
There's not, every single division is strapped. And I can talk about it. We're strapped in central garage for buying vehicles. We're strapped in paving. We're strapped. We've got public transit agencies cutting routes now.
It's down to, they got 30 positions, there's 30 positions, but not all of them were full.
We lost 62 positions in the last year. We lost this last month, we lost 31, and middle of last summer, we lost 30. So we've cut 62 positions in transportation on the last year. That's out of 1200. So when we would welcome it, putting money into more charging stations. I don't know where we put in the money.
Get more EVs, we'll have more money from EVs, we'll have more money for chargers.
Well, and we also, I would say we had, what was it, last week or the week before? The two people that lost
Oh, yeah,
positions.
very painful testimony about people that got.
And they laid off one young woman with a tumor.
Like he was on maternity.
So the choices are not good for us.
Yeah, I'm not happy,
I just one other thing, and I would say to you, the long range is we have to figure out a way to treat everybody equally and not have the decline in revenue sources of revenues that we are, and we gave it our best shot and we didn't fare well in finance. But
Did they hear your voice?
I think but it did not come out of finance in a day. They struggled with this. They struggled.
And we'll move to ledge council. We have an amendment to consider.
Okay. For the record, I'm Damien Leonard, from the Office of Legislative Counsel. Logan did an excellent job of setting the stage for the amendment, which is fairly simple. So it has two instances of amendment. The first strikes out the sections that are in the big bill already. So section 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 would be deleted. So that is the amendments to the local option tax language and the pilot funds, the amendments to the general assistance for town highways, or the creation of a local option municipal transportation special fund the general assistance to town highways, transfer an additional appropriation to general state aid for town highways. And additionally transfer from the general fund to the transportation fund, which isn't necessary because of the purchase and use tax adjustments there in the tax bill. So those 5 sections would be deleted. The second instance of amendment, because you appropriated money for the public transit demand response medical transports, or non-emergency transports. In the big bill, this strikes out the appropriation, but retains language directing how the money would be used. So it authorizes the agency to utilize the amounts appropriated to provide grants to public transit agencies to support the recruitment and retention of volunteer drivers and mobility management activities related to non-emergency medical transports. And the second there is a fairly broad umbrella that will cover a number of purposes within this discrete area. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay,
This is why I thought it was good for Logan to go first.
yeah, and we know what the sections are. And since all those sections are in the e-bill, we've already approved them, so I'll entertain a motion. To amend the bill. Amend and pass favorably. The clerk makes it. Make a motion. Do we allow the clerk to make a motion?
I've got a lot of power over here. Get the pen. Today, short.
No, let's take it to my own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forgot to make, we made a fortune. Oh, we weren't here yet. Did you make, you made a fortune?
Oh,
I was counting it.
What's that?
Senator Baruch,
Yes.
Senator Brennan, yes. Senator Lyons.
Yes.
Senator Norris, yes. Senator Watson,
It's,
Senator Watson.
Yeah.
Senator Kirchler. Yes. Great. Order. Senator Westman. Former clerk.
What's a clear?
I'll ask the Lieutenant Governor, the former clerk from Louisville. Okay, I think that's it for the T-bill at 9:44. We need to wait for.